Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and Dad said, "Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this." I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
Humble bragging about going to a war when you never saw combat is honestly diabolical as hell.
And we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is...
I swear Democrat politicians who are veterans are some of the goofiest people in the world. For some reason, they think their veteran status gives them Super Saiyan authority over the Constitution to tell citizens what they can and can't use to protect themselves. Thank you for your service, and I truly mean that. But you can also f*** off. And I truly mean that too. You are an enlisted member of the National Guard, which means you took an oath where the literal first line state, "I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic." Last I checked, the Second Amendment was in the Constitution. And last I checked, the Second Amendment still says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yet, here you are, like a goofy, talking about banning the most popular rifle in the country because you carried it in a war you never actually fought in.
Worst, who does that?
What makes you look even more dumb is that an AR-15 is not a weapon used in war. So even if you did see combat, you wouldn't have been carrying an AR-15, sir. You'd be carrying an actual machine gun. So not only are you goofy, you're ignorant, which makes you an ignorant goofy. Tim, I know the rest of the gun community and anyone who understands the Second Amendment give a literal two shits about what you carried in a war you never fought in. Not because your service doesn't matter, because it does. It's because your service doesn't matter when you're trying to use your service to infringe on constitutional rights. You're supposed to be touting your service in defense of the Second Amendment, not against it. And the moment you do, your service becomes obsolete to the conversation like a pit bull owner who swears their pit is friendly as it's trying to bite my face off. I'm sick and tired of these Democrat AstroTurf veterans whoring out their veteran status like a political OnlyFans content creator to justify violating people's rights. That shit is annoying because your veteran status is a false equivalent to the life I live as a civilian. At war, you get to be on the offensive. You have objectives. You have a crew. You have reinforcements. You have Overwatch. You have a plane that goes. As a civilian, if someone attacks me in my home or even out in the public, all I got is a pistol and a AR-15. I don't get an A-10. I don't get a machine gun. I don't get flashbangs and grenades. So if anything, your time in the National Guard should have taught you empathy for the civilians and their need for an AR-15. Instead, you're just a political elitist who uses his time served as a flex to shit on people's constitutional rights. And don't get me started on the whole "I'm a hunter" bullshit to act like you're like us. You're like the undercover cop who tries to dress and act like us, but we all know you're not like us, and that's coming from a Drake fan. Your holier than thou grandpappy act is all bullshit, and we know it. At the end of the day, you're just the weirdo they chose because the other options for vice president would have overshadowed the cackling hyena that is Kamala, which is pretty embarrassing if you ask me. So, Mr. Timmy, what you need to do is go back and reread the Second Amendment so that you can understand exactly what it says. And you would also further understand that the Second Amendment does protect the AR-15, just like the one that's on my hat. That's available right now at shop.mrcorleonenoir.com. So click the link in the description section of this video and grab your, yes, the Second Amendment does protect the AR-15, because that's exactly what it does. I don't understand why people think Second Amendment would be written to make sure we had the worst rifles we could possibly protect ourselves with. But then again, technically, when you compare the AR-15 to an actual machine gun, it's kind of is the worst, but that's neither here nor there. Hit the link in the description section and grab the Second Amendment is supported by the AR-15, or no, actually the Second Amendment protects the AR-15. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you, and we're all fighting this culture war together. Now, you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together, we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.